Hi and welcome to your class for today. Today we are gonna talk in the class about a particular value that many of us have been taught since our childhood and till date we are practicing. The irony is that when we were younger and were taught earlier, it was much easy to practice. But as we grow older, it becomes much more difficult. It's a value that actually is so important that if we want to be happy, practicing it would be one of the best things that we can do. But at the same time, a value that is very difficult as well. So as we begin today's class, let's take a look at this TEDx talk of a woman, okay, who narrates her story and says it's a journey of forgiveness. And I hope when you listen to her, you will understand why she says it's a journey to forgiveness. So please listen carefully and hopefully you'll learn something from this video.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our next speaker, Mrs. Ellen Rutledge.
My name is Ellen Rutledge. I am employed here at Ironwood State Prison as secretary to the Chief Deputy Warden, Mr. Neil McDowell. Like many of you, I always thought that my family would be blessed with a long and happy life together. But God did not include that in our life plan. On the morning of October 22nd, 2008, our lives were tragically changed forever. At approximately 4:30 in the morning, my only son, Michael, stepped out of his house, preparing to go to work. As he was loading up his truck, he was approached by two armed robbers wearing ski masks. He was brutally beaten. He was fatally shot in the head, execution style, while he was on his hands and knees. The only physical thing that those robbers took was his wallet. At the time of his murder, Michael was 35 years old. This picture was taken just a few months before he was murdered. He and his wife had been married for 13 years. They had two young children. They owned their own home in a nice neighborhood, and they were living what we all call the American dream. When I was given the news that my son had been murdered, thus began my long ride on an emotional roller coaster. My emotions ran from disbelief to bargaining with God and many nights of grief and despair. You see, as a mother, it's my natural instincts to fix whatever problems my children might have. But I couldn't fix this. To this day, I still have a hard time understanding how anything so unforgivable could happen to any family. But it does. One of the most difficult things we as humans are ever called upon to do is to respond to evil with kindness and to forgive the unforgivable. We love to read stories and watch movies about people who respond to hatred with love, and yet when that very thing is required of us, our default seems to be one of anger, bitterness, or vengeance. If you don't practice forgiveness, you might be the one who pays the most dearly. So the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to forgive the unforgivable. Louis B. Smedes, professor and author of many popular books, including Forgive and Forget, is quoted, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free, only to discover that the prisoner was you. Since the murder of my son in 2008, I have journeyed down 1,000 emotional roads, seeking the answers to, can I, will I, ever forgive those two young men who chose to kill my son instead of just taking his wallet and walking away? No rational answer has ever given me the solace that I seek. During the past 5 years, I have eased off the freeway of pure anguish, and I now travel on a frontage road of acceptance. I have searched my soul time and time again, and I have come to know that I am no longer identified as a victim, but rather I am a strong, positive, and resilient woman. Be assured we all have the ability to forgive, but it may not happen in one fell swoop. Sometimes it has to happen in layers. Sometimes we have to forgive someone many times before we can let go of all of the emotional residue of the past. We can take inspiration from the words of Nelson Mandela, who was imprisoned for 27 years by the South African government. He says, "As I stepped out the door toward my freedom, I knew that if I did not leave all the anger, hatred, and resentment behind, I would still be in prison." So how do we know if we have achieved forgiveness? If you have taken the steps to restore peace in your heart, you will feel a shift. You will no longer feel sorrow over the circumstance. You will no longer feel angry with that person. You'll feel sorry for them instead. And you will tend to not have anything else to say about the situation at all. You will feel lighter. And you will know in your heart that you have given yourself the ultimate gift. Thank you.
Now, I'm sure many of you would have listened to that video just now, or the TEDx talk, and you would have understood what really is journey and why forgiveness, to come to forgiveness, we call it a journey. It is not very easy. It is not very simple. And like I said earlier, it is something that we had practiced very easily when we were younger, but becomes much more difficult as we grow older. So let's quickly take a look at what forgiveness is not and what forgiveness is all about. Forgiveness is not about approving or diminishing. Please remember, it's not about approving or diminishing. It's not about denying a wrongdoing. It's not about enabling moral acts. It's definitely not about forgetting. It's not about neglecting justice. It's not about reconciliation or a one-time event as well. You would have realized that, it is not something that is easy to practice. So it is not about saying whether you are right or wrong. Okay. It is not about enabling that whether the act is immoral, amoral. It is not about judging, in fact. Okay. And we tend to think that if we talk about forgiveness, we have to talk about forgetting. But definitely it is not about forgetting. I don't think anyone can really forget what has happened. Especially things that are more painful, we remember them much more. It is not about justice at all. Okay? It is not a one-time event nor a reconciliation. Let's look at what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is cancelling a debt that is owed to you, removing control the the offender that the offender has over you, removing the control the offender has over you, forsaking revenge. Remember that many a times when we are hurt, our natural instinct is to plan for a revenge. And in the process, we waste a lot of time, energy in planning for revenge. Whether we go to whether we just, it's just a plan, it's just a thought, or we go to execution. But forgiveness is not is about forsaking revenge. It is about seeking peace and not justice, and it is not a one time event, so it is an ongoing process. We have to keep forgiving all the time. All the time, we have to keep forgiving. So, it is about canceling debt that is owed to you, removing what control the offender has over you, forsaking revenge, seeking peace, not justice, and it's an ongoing process, and you have to keep forgiving all the time. Now let's quickly take a look at this next video. Two famous people, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and the Dalai Lama, an epitome of peace, love, and forgiveness. Let's see what they talk about when they say about forgiveness.
Forgiveness does not mean forget. You should keep memory about their sort of negative thing. But because of that, there is possibility to develop anger or hatred. That control, that is meaning of forgiveness.
Almost natural response is when I'm hit, I hit back. When you have been refined, you put yourself in the shoes of the other.
It is totally wrong. The practice of tolerance and practice of forgiveness is signs of weakness. Totally wrong. 100% wrong. Or 1000% wrong. Isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean,
this is forgiveness. It's the sign of strength. Isn't it?
absolutely. Yes, I was just going to say, those who say forgiving is a sign of weakness haven't tried it. Share the joy. Are you in?
I'm sure you would agree with Dalai Lama, who says that forgiveness does not mean you are weak. It shows how strong you are when you're able to forgive somebody. And I think if you want to really live a peaceful life, then probably forgiveness is the only way. If we cannot forgive each other regularly, we can never live a peaceful life. We'll only be thinking about the past. We'll be living more on the past. Let's take a look at this particular saying. It says, "Do not look where you fall, but where you slipped." And even in forgiveness, I think we can apply this, because it's very important we understand what our fault was as well. What really happened in that particular situation? How did I contribute to that situation, instead of just putting on a blame game? In forgiveness, the bitter past will always hurt. A healed memory is not a deleted memory. Instead, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember it. I don't know how many of us have we really practiced forgiveness, but for me, I can say this is very true. The past will always hurt, but then how I remember a particular event after forgiveness is completely different from how I remember it before I practice forgiveness. So, a healed memory is not a deleted memory. Like we said earlier, that forgiveness is not about forgetting. We can never forget. We are not machines. In fact, you will remember that event more. But how you remember that event is very important. So, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to actually remember it. So, it is very important that we learn to practice forgiveness regularly, be it small, simple things or be it big things as well. Let's look at this next TEDx talk about John Paul Samputu, who went through a journey of forgiveness. Now we are showing you these videos to give you an example that very difficult things also, when difficult things happen in your life or when very difficult situations come in your life, forgiveness is still possible if you think about it. So if they have given us example that it is possible, then for small simple things, I'm sure we can do it much more.
Yomisi yari injana munu imaze gose benshi ab'intore babatishanga Imana idakingwa akaboko wari kurokoka 19 years of suffering, 19 years of wandering, 19 years of remembering. Dore imyaka 19 irashize twibuka abacu twabuze batuvuyemo tutabishaka Imana ibaha iruhuko ridashira 19 years of suffering, 19 years of wandering, 19 years of remembering. No more genocide in Rwanda. No more genocide in the world. No more, 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 no more. Thank you. Thank you. In 1994, it happened, a genocide in Rwanda, and 1 million people were murdered in 90 days. During that genocide, I lost my parents, 3 brothers, and my sister. When, after the genocide, I went back to my village, and I asked some genocide survivor what happened. I wanted to know. And I learned that my parents were killed by one of my best friend from my childhood. I lost my mind. It destroyed my life. I couldn't understand why such a good friend did that to me. It took me 9 years dealing with anger, resentment, bitterness. Set at one point, I couldn't sing, I couldn't show up on the stage, I couldn't honor my contracts as a musician and a singer. Some of my friends tried to help me. They brought me to find witch doctors to help heal me. I met some doctors, and one day, others friends, I went to Uganda because I couldn't stay in Rwanda. Some friends got a decision and they said, Jean-Paul is going to die. What we can do, let us try and see if we can pray for him as we are waiting him to die. I went to a mountain, prayer mountain. I spent time there learning the word of God, praying, and one day I decided to take a decision. I had a bad memories what happened genocide, how Christians are the ones who made the genocide possible. Church leaders killed their own Christians. But I decided to accept and to try, because I've tried everything. I have tried doctors, I've tried witch doctors. And then I didn't have a choice. I said, let me try this. I don't have a choice. Then I start to pray. I start to lead the word of God. And it helped me to stop drinking and taking alcohol, because of before that I was on alcoholic addicted. One day, while I'm praying, I got this voice telling me that I will only be healed if I decided to forgive the man who killed my parents. And I had many thoughts. And because I wanted to please God, I wanted to make a difference, to be one of Christians who can even just do what you have learned, to practice what they preach. Then I said, let me try again. Let me try to obey God. And I decided to accept and to obey that voice. At that day, that's the day I said, I got a great peace in my heart. I was ready and to go and tell others that I feel that I can go in front of the man who killed my parents and tell him that I've forgiven him. Then I went to my village, or one of a gathering in my home village. I asked to speak. They gave me a microphone, and I told the audience that the power of forgiveness helped me to overcome the anger and the bitterness. And that's why I'm here to tell you I didn't come to accuse, but I came to forgive in front of you and to forgive Vincent and Eugene, who are there present. And we met for the first time. We shared a meal, and we started to talk on the radios, television, sharing the word with this message of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Since that time, we worked together. We organized conferences about forgiveness. And I remember one, the big one we organized, it was in 2009, Forgiveness, a Step to the Reconciliation, where we stood up together talking and sharing, Vincent speaking about repentance and me speaking about forgiveness. For me, forgiveness means to liberate from our bondage. Forgiveness means to release from our prison of hatred, bitterness, desire of revenge. Forgiveness is for you, not for the offender. When you see in this world, the culture of revenge reigns. A generation, because it's not healed from the generation before, the generation we organize, or we see many violences in the world. We see a genocide brings another genocide, a war brings another war. We live in the world where the culture of revenge reigns. The only way people will survive, the only way we can break this cycle of violence is the people to forgive. We need to promote this culture of forgiveness if we want to avoid any future genocide. So in life, we must find creative or constructive ways to negotiate conflicts. We cannot change the past, but we can change how we approach it or how we carry our feelings about it into the future. And forgiveness is the key. Let the history inform you, not control you. Let me repeat this. Forgiveness is for you, not for the offender. Thank you.
I think I would reiterate what he says. In life, find creative ways in practicing forgiveness. Whatever he said, I'm sure we would have understood very well. But again, I would like to stress a little bit more on what he says. If one generation is not healed, then the other generation cannot be healed. And I think even in forgiveness, we see this. We see many families not talking to each others. We see siblings don't talk to each other. And because parents don't talk to each other, children lose the comfort and the joy of having cousins because the parents don't talk to each other. So you see, when one generation is not healed, the other generation cannot enjoy what they are supposed to. So we must find creative ways to learn to practice forgiveness. And forgiveness will liberate us. Forgiveness, like Dalai Lama said, is meant for us, not for the offender. It's not that you're playing the role of someone who's much better than the other, but to make yourself find peace and harmony within yourself, that you can live life in a much more better way, learn to enjoy things. How to reach to a state of forgiveness? Forgiveness is a commitment to a process of change. To begin with, you'll have to consider the value of forgiveness, whether it is worth it or no, and its importance in your life. Remember why it is important. Reflect on the facts of the situation, how you've reacted, how it has affected your life, your health, and your well-being. Actively, you'll have to choose to forgive the person who offended you, and you have to move away from your role as a victim and release control and power the offended person and situation had in your life. So remember, forgiveness has a lot of positive value that you can start considering. And if you have been holding grudges for quite a long time, then probably forgiveness will be something very good that you can consider right now. Those who have hurt you in the past cannot continue to hurt you now unless you hold on to the pain through resentment. Remember, if we don't practice forgiveness or don't actively choose to practice forgiveness, what happens is that we give the control to the other person. The moment the other person is involved in the situation, we withdraw ourselves. Before we think whether I should enjoy a particular situation or no, I am thinking about the other person who has hurt me. So we are actually giving the control to the other person. So please do consider the value of forgiveness. Now, if we hold grudges, what really happens to us? If we're unforgiving, you might bring in anger, bitterness in every relationship and new experience. Okay? Before you start a relationship, you start in a pessimistic way. Is he or she going to be the same way that the other person has been? You become so wrapped up in the wrong that you can't enjoy the present as well. You can't really enjoy what is happening because you're thinking, what if the same thing happens? Okay? You doubt every person that comes along the way. You become depressed or anxious all the time, more of anxious in the beginning. You feel that your life lacks meaning and purpose, and you miss the valuable and enriching connectedness with others as well. So, see, what are the things that actually happen when you hold on to grudges? Letting go of grudges and bitterness, probably if it makes way to happiness, your health will definitely improve, and you'll have a healthier relationship, greater spiritual and psychological well being, less anxiety, stress, and hostility, lower blood pressure, fewer symptoms of depression, a stronger immune system because you're focusing on positive, improve heart health, and a higher self esteem. Because why? You're no more being controlled by a situation. You're no more giving the control to somebody else. You are taking control of your own feelings. And just to remind you, forgiveness does not change the past, but it enlarges the future. I'm sure John Paul Samputu too had said this, that it makes you look at the future in a much more different way. Forgiveness does not start with anyone, it starts with us. Please remember, you have to actively choose it. No one can do it for you, only you can come to a place where you should want to forgive. Okay? So remember, it is you who has to choose it. Okay? And by choosing it, you may let go of so many negative things in life. But also, I would like to remind you, if we have chosen to forgive, please do not expect the other person to be ready to. If the other person is not ready, let him or her be the way he or she should be, and take their time to come to a state of forgiveness. But you can practice yours because you are choosing forgiveness to liberate yourself. So realize, in order to choose forgiveness, you have to start realizing your woundedness. Stop blaming, change your perspective, talk to the person, move forward to ask for forgiveness. But remember, if the other person is not ready, don't force the other person yet. Give him or her the time that they require. Why do I forgive? Remembering how often I too have been at fault, realizing how quickly I am to take or how quick I am to take offense while expecting my faults to be forgiven, knowing that to hold ill feelings is to cause myself greater harm than others can do to me, knowing that revenge and grudges bring turmoil and agitation, knowing that like me the other person is still burning with greed, hatred, and delusion, and knowing that forgiveness will lighten and bring peace to my heart. I want you to take a look at this for some more time. Read those points carefully and do think about forgiveness. So, as we stop and end here the class for today, forgiveness brings freedom. Freedom from what? From being controlled by the past, so you get to enjoy your present. Freedom from the emotional ties of the offender. Freedom from the continual inner conflict of bitterness and hate. Freedom to become whole and enjoy the fullness of life. So we get freedom from so many things. And remember, as social human beings as we are, it is natural. One of our values is also forgiveness. So it is something that you had practiced it earlier, and you can do it once more. So I'll leave this class for today with this particular song, and hope you will enjoy this song and do think the value of forgiveness. Thank you once again, and hope you enjoy the song.
I'm about to lose the battle and cross the line. I'm about to make another mistake, and even though I try to stay away, everything around me keeps dragging me in. I can't help thinking to myself, what if my time would end today, today, today? Can I guarantee that I will get another chance before it's too late, too late, too late? Forgive me. My heart is so full of regret. Forgive me. Now is the right time for me to repent, repent, repent. Am I out of my mind? What did I do? Oh, I feel so bad. And every time I try to start all over again, my shame comes back to haunt me. I'm trying hard to walk away, but temptation is surrounding me, surrounding me. I wish that I could find the strength to change my life before it's too late, too late, too late. Forgive me. My heart is so full of regret. Forgive me. Now is the right time for me to repent, repent, repent. I know you're the most forgiving, and that you promise to always be there when I call upon you. So now I'm standing here, ashamed of all the mistakes I've committed. Please don't turn me away, and hear my prayer when I ask you to forgive me. My heart is so full of regret. Forgive me. Now is the right time for me to repent, repent. Forgive me. My heart is so full of regret. Forgive me. Now is the right time for me to repent, repent. Forgive me. My heart is so full of regret. Forgive me. Now is the right time for me to repent, repent, repent.